News' most recent Baldwinsville Community Update. I'm your host, Shelly Hoffman. Hey everybody, I'm here today with Bob Wicks. How you doing today, Bob?
I'm doing great today.
Good. I put out my pumpkins, put out some fall decorations. So I'm ready for the fall. Like I drove back from Philadelphia yesterday and I think I hit the Poconos right at the peak seasons. There was reds, oranges, absolutely beautiful. And then as I did get closer to Syracuse, I think we must have peaked earlier because the leaves were not as pretty as they were in the Poconos. I'm not going to lie, but it's still pretty out.
My wife came back from New Hampshire from my daughter's house and she drives through the Berkshires and she said they had all changed. It was kind of like she went up there for a week, and when she first went there, it was green. By the time she came back, it was they were all full colors. So it doesn't take long.
Nope. And I know that the Lysander Park has some Halloween stuff going on that they're prepping for. I'm going to get with Kevin because he came around because the window painting is October 22nd.
Yeah.
And that's obviously under the town Parks and Rec. And then he teamed up with Orange and Olive. Heather over there is Nicole, I'm sorry, is going to be doing, a spooky thing over at Lysander. So this might honestly be one of my favorite times of the year, just with all the colors and the activity. I was talking to the mayor last week about the window painting, the trick or treating. There's an Oktoberfest pub crawl. So October 22nd, if anybody's around Baldwinsville, you got to come join the fun. And if you're antisocial, then you might want to get the heck out of Baldwinsville that day because there's going to be a lot happening.
Yeah, they have the trick or treat. I think the businesses are doing the kids trick or treating at the same time that they're doing the window painting. But yeah, there's a lot going on that day.
Yeah, it'll be nice. So what's been going on in the town of Lysander since we spoke?
Well, if you're down in the park, that's coming along pretty well. I mean, the park director we put in additional parking there, and people kept still parking along the pathway, which was kind of tearing up the grass with all the amount of rain that we had. So you'll see some stakes up there to keep people off the grass so that we push them to the parking lots a little bit better. So it's better for people walking off the fields and things like that. And we should be. I saw that they were working on the additional parking the other day, so that should be done. And the park director got some more boulders because he's going to line that parking area just like we did along Henkel Boulevard, so that if people we want to keep people in or coming out of the assigned driveways. We don't want them driving out because you could just drive straight out onto the road, which wasn't going to be a good thing. So he's going to line that up. So it's going to be they're going to be directed out of the two driveways. When it's really busy, it'll slow it up a little bit, but for safety, it's going to be much safer that way because the other two driveways were way too close together, and it was going to be an accident waiting to happen. So should see I saw the boulders over there the other day. They should be laying those out this week. Okay. I talked about the Fireside Inn where they have a main going underneath the back kitchen. Well, we finally got all the things we need, all the permits and everything done. And, we worked it out with the village because we got a contract with them. So we worked it out how it's going to go. So hopefully we're going to be starting that in the next couple of weeks. And it's going to divert it around behind those little apartments there next to the gas station and come down in between those apartments and the Fireside. So then that's going to be about a $45,000 project that's going to save the residents up in that Indian Springs Water District that amount of money. Because if we hadn't received the grant in order to fix that, the residents up there were going to have to pay for that. And there was nothing that I or the town could do because according to the comptroller's rules, it has to come out of the district. The only way that we could have save them that amount of money, and it was substantial for it's hundreds of dollars for a number of years, and the only way that we were able to save it was to be able to get a grant, and we did. So that's good. Exeter and Eaton, they're the highways up there, redoing those 2 roads. So hopefully, I think they're going to be through with it this week. They were held up a little bit by the rain and stuff, but we had some good days. They might even be done now. I'm not sure. I haven't been up there, but I'm going to take a ride up there today and take a look at it. But when that gets through, it's nice because they're hooking in all the sump pumps. So that's going to take water away from the yards. It's going to take water away from the road. And being Indian Springs, there's a lot of water up there. But on all the other roads that we did it on, it really dried them up and took that water away and into the sewer system. The other thing I wanted to talk about, it's budget season. And the last couple of months, I've been really working. Well, I actually started back in May working on this budget because this year is a very difficult year, and next year is going to be difficult as well. Our costs have went up exponentially. I mean, for materials, and even when we can get them, they're higher. But even trying to get them is difficult. But all across the board, I mean, a project that would have cost us $20,000 last year is $30,000, $35,000, $40,000 this year, just because of the cost of the materials. So moving forward, we had to take that into consideration. Now, over the last couple of years, I and the board have really been concentrating on trying to do as much work as we can, but trying to build up our fund balance, which is just a savings account. When I say fund balance, it's the town savings account. So normally you like to keep about 20% in that fund balance. We were close to 30%, or right around 30%. It changes a little bit. And the reason being, I knew we were going to need to use that money this year and next year. So this year, just in the highway budget alone, normally we use around $230,000 out of that fund balance to offset taxes for the highway. This year we had to use $400,000 in order to, so that's an additional $170,000. And fortunately, we've been very frugal with that money, and we've been saving it up so we were able to use it. And we should be good going into next year. Once we get past next year, it could start to get ugly. When I say ugly, we're going to have to raise taxes a little bit, and hopefully not too much, because if the price of gas, I mean, you look at diesel gas, it went up 6 cents today. We use a lot of diesel gas. Salt, it went up $10 or about $8 a ton. We use tons of salt. Things like that. It's just very expensive to operate a highway department. But what we were able to do, if you look at your tax bill from last year, the town taxes are going down 10.67%. So the tax rate that you had last year was 47.6 cents. That's how much it was last year. This year it's 42.5. So essentially, if you had a $250,000 house last year, you were paying $119.12. That's what you would have paid on your taxes, town taxes. What I tried to do, and the comptroller and I tried to keep that rate the same amount, even though people had a 14.2% increase, which a $250,000 house last year will be $285, assessed at $285 this year, and your tax rate is based on per thousand. So you got $35,000 more that your house is assessed at if you were at $250,000. Well, if you are only going up $2.20 for a house that's assessed at $285 this year, is only $2.20 more than a house that was assessed at $250,000 last year. I mean, that's essentially really no increase. Nobody's going to notice $2.20. Right. And it goes down. If you have a $200,000 house, it would be $1.75. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep that pretty much flat. If your house is assessed at $250,000, it's going to be $106. So it would go down $13 from last year, but everybody went up. And that's why when people say, when their assessments go up, their taxes are going to go up. Well, not necessarily. I mean, for $35,000, they only went up $2 more. So they did go up, but really, when you look at statistically, that's such a small number. And we're in hyperinflation too. We're in hyperinflation where everything's out of sight. If we were in a normal year, that wouldn't have had to go up. But we just had a hard time looking at everything to get people to where they needed to be just to operate the town. With the highway tax, that's for inside the village, and town tax outside the village. But if you're inside the village, you don't pay highway tax, because obviously we pay the village for that. So outside the village, last year for highway tax, you would have paid $325.75. This year, your house, if it was a $250,000 house, it's going to be up to $285. So you're going to be paying $336. So it's a $10 increase for the highway. And I told you, I mean, highway is the largest portion of our budget. It's just, it's huge. And their costs have really blown up. The highway superintendent and I had a difference of opinion on what he thought his budget should be. He presented me with a budget and he's the only one that didn't sit down with me. You know, he did it on his own, and he's an elected official, so he can do that. You know, unlike some people think he works for me, he doesn't work for me. He's independently elected. So he did his budget on his own, and if we would have used his budget to, if he would have gotten everything out of his budget that he wanted, instead of $336, it would have been about $536. So for a $285,000 house. So there's a lot of houses that are more than that. So you just, you know, if it was $500,000, you'd be looking at another $400 a month just in highway tax alone. And what I said to him, and we got into, you know, at the board meeting, and you can take a look at that if when it comes up on PAX TV. We have a difference of opinion on what people can afford, and his budget is still going up $250,000, but he wanted $1.4 million in his budget. That's just in this time. That's just crazy, in my opinion. If you look at economists on TV, and I watch the Business Channel quite a bit. I mean, I must not have anything else to do, but it's interesting to me. Plus, it gives me a good basis on what I'm doing here. I try to see, okay, where are we going to be with finances and things like that, and that's a good barometer. I'll know if the economy gets better, things get better for us. But the economists on there said, in a time where where people are paying, there's 18% inflation, and regardless of what they're putting up on TV, if you look at, they only use certain things to decide what the inflation rate is. But realistically, if you add everything, gas, food, clothes, everything that we have to pay, it's really about 18%. That's not me. That's the economist saying that. So when you have this type of thing where people are paying $5 for gas, they're paying $400 more when they go to the grocery store. When clothes cost more, people are getting laid off. Government should retract, and that's what this economist said. Government should retract in their spending, and I believe that's true. Even though his budget was increased. 250,000, 170,000 plus came out of our savings account, our fund balance. So that was money that we had set aside just for this point. So we don't have to have those big fluctuations where one year you're getting a severe decrease, the next year you're getting an increase. I want to keep it stable. Although if you're living inside the village, in the 3 years that I've done the budget, the town taxes have gone down about 26% in the tax rate. Now, obviously, with the inflation and everything, you're paying more, a little bit more, but the tax rate we've been able to keep that down. But, that's where the highway superintendent and I had a difference of opinion. Now, this is my budget. So when I do the tentative budget and I give it to the board, then the board meets with the department heads, including the highway department. And this could change. They could decide that they want to take more of it out, or they could decide that they want to put more in. If they decide that they want to take more out, I'm going to take a hard look at it, because I really, really took a lot of time to put this together and sit down with people. If they decide they want to increase this, I'm not going to vote for this budget. There's, if you have a majority of the board that decides we should spend more money, there's nothing I can do about that. I can only give them this tentative budget on what I think it should be. But it's just like when Ryan McMahon goes to the county ledge. Normally he's asking for more, and they cut it down. But in towns, if you got department heads that make a good argument, they generally increase it. They generally do not decrease it. But I will not vote for a budget that's higher than this, because I think it's enough right now. I think we have to be conscientious. When people are paying a lot more money, they don't need to pay more taxes. $2 more in their town tax, I think people can absorb that. But $200, like the highway superintendent was suggesting, it's just way out of whack. That was I think a 65% increase in his budget. That's just unreasonable. And I know he's new in that position, but it's just not something that I think people can handle right now. Because I look at people that are on a very, very fixed income, $50, $100, certainly $200 for people that are on a fixed income is a lot of money. It's a lot of money with everything else.
To your point, yeah, that's what I said. To your point, everything else is going up too. You go to the pump, you go to the grocery store, your utility bills come in the mail, and it's just a matter of where is it going to, where is it going to stop and sit and budget. I'm trying to teach my teenagers more about budgeting, and I'll tell you, the gas is where it's hitting my 17-year-old, which she's paying and how often she's driving, and So I'm just looking out for two teenagers, and my son is actually pretty frugal, but you're looking out for the whole town, and that can't be an easy thing. And, the towns, to your point, the highway department, they do a lot, but you guys have managed to get them a lot of grant money as well, which has probably helped a little bit to where the budget is and our taxes have been. Would that be correct?
They've had more money in the last 2 years than they've ever had. We were able to get an additional, $460,000, more than that the previous year, but just in one grant, $460,000 the last 2 years. And that all went to the highway. Then we got a $50,000 grant from the county. Then we got another $180,000 grant by negotiations from the National Grid. Niagara Mohawk tells you how old I am. National Grid. Then we negotiated when we bought the lighting, it was $1 million they wanted. We negotiated it down to $950,000. Each one of those $50,000 really helps to knock things down. All the stuff that we're doing in the park, all grant money. Other than the park director Kevin has a budget, but his budget has not increased. All that stuff that's going on in there, we got grants from county, state, and federal money. All went into that park. So it's not coming out of people's pockets. If we had to do that, we wouldn't have been able to do that if we had to do that on our own, because it would have been, we put in over $400,000 into that park, and we got another $350,000 that we're waiting for now for improvements in the park. It takes about a year. Once they tell you you've been awarded this grant, we have to jump through a bunch of hoops. It has to go through all kinds of processes with us, and then all with the state, and eventually we get the money. But we have $350,000 in the pipeline for that. So those are the improvements that are going to go in there and keeping tax dollars down. But we have to be very, very frugal. Now, when it comes to doing other highway projects, okay, he's going to get an additional, like I said, $250,000. Now that goes towards raises and everything else like that. But but just in road improvements, there's, I think, $50,000 or $60,000 more than he had last year budgeted. So it's not like we've eviscerated his budget. We didn't, and we're going to continue to work on those grants. And with some of the things that are coming out, I think there's a good potential where there's going to be grant money that we could do more. But if you look at our town roads are in good shape, and we've done a lot of jobs. We'll use Connell Terrace, for instance. That hadn't been done in 30 years. We did that whole project, and Exeter and Eaton. A lot of these roads that hadn't been done in decades, we've been doing, and we did it all within the last 2.5 years. So our roads are in pretty good shape. If we have to pull back a little bit for a year or two and just maintain what we have, we might have to do that until things get better, until the economy gets better. That's the way I look at it.
When will you be presenting the budget to the board?
Well, it's already been presented to them, so that we had to change some things. Our new comptroller changed the format of the way we sat down, and the format's a little different than what it used to look like before. But there's a lot more information in there. But if you look at my budget, for instance, it looks like I got two of the counselors said, hey, it looks like you got a $70,000 raise. Well, that's because there's my salary in there, and there's also my secretary's salary in there. So we have all full-time people in there. So it looks like I got a $18,000 raise, but that's actually my secretary's salary in there. So if you go to the back, you'll see that I didn't get a raise, but everybody, other people that got raises, there's a roster in the back, but there's a lot of information in there. You just have to look through it. So what we had to do was I took their suggestions. It was a good idea. Instead of just town supervisor as a line item, it's going to be town supervisor programs. So that makes sense. So now you just look to the back. Okay, what are the programs a supervisor has? And then it goes through, and then it breaks down the salaries in there as well. So that should be out. That should be online today, that everybody will be able to take a look at it. Starting this week, and we should finish up next week. Then we'll have all the department head meetings, and then we'll have the preliminary budget. Okay, so mine is a tentative budget. Then we'll have a preliminary budget. Once we're done with that, we do a public hearing. I'll do the presentation. The comptroller and I will do the presentation of the budget, the board's budget, and then we vote on that, which is the adopted budget.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, like I said, this is going on, oh my goodness, maybe the 3rd year, 2 years, 3 years, Bob, that we've been talking. I understand so much more about the budget. I did know how the assessment and the tax rate and all that impacted, just again, because of what I do. But I think taking the time each year, you explained it. I've had people come up to me and say they understand a little bit more. So I think it is important that you take the time to explain what you're doing in the budget and how things kind of relate to the increases that we've seen in the assessed values. Because people,
well, I was explaining it to my wife this morning, and she said, well, is it this? I said, no, it's this. Well, what about this? No, it's this. And so I understand that it's confusing. I mean, I didn't understand it like I do now when I came in. I mean, there's a learning curve for me as well. Fortunately, I have a background, I do have some accounting classes, and but it doesn't, taking accounting classes or being a CPA doesn't prepare you for municipal budgeting. I mean, everybody has a learning curve with this, and I've gotten much better at it, and I can explain it more effectively than I could early on. But that's the other thing. I forgot about the assessments. We put a moratorium on the assessments, so we're not going to be doing assessments next year. Other than if you put on an addition or something, you might get reassessed. But other than that, they're going to stay flat from the town. Now, the reason we did that is because if we didn't do that, everyone was going to see about a 14% increase, just like they did last year. That was going to happen. So and even though and people will say, well, housing prices are coming down. Yes, they are. But municipalities are a year behind. So we're going on last year's numbers, which was, like out of sight. So they would have been really high. Now they're starting to come down a little bit. And I'll ask you, you probably have a little bit better handle on it. I mean, they're not selling for way over where they used to before, getting multiple offers and correct?
Yeah, well, it's all in pricing. So sometimes you are still seeing that, but it depends on where the price started. If you price and it depends the condition of the home and the location of the home. So just when you think you're not going to see that anymore, you come across someone else in the industry that said, "Oh my goodness, I just lost out. We went over 25,000 and we still lost." So it's out there, Bob, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not every single house now. It's
Which it was
it's a little bit
before.
spread.
So
Yeah, or before.
you know,
Yeah.
so we're gonna see a decline now, and that's what we're waiting for. If we see that it go below where we started at this year, then we're going to reinstitute it, because what'll happen then, we'll do a reassessment, and if they're lower than they were, then your assessments should come down, and that's we're trying to make it as fair as possible. And the problem for us, it's when we're at 100% and all the towns around us are not, then our citizens, our residents aren't getting treated fairly, because when the state comes in and does their thing, the equalization, which is supposed to equalize everything, it doesn't. And I've gone through that. Some houses in the Ballsville School District in the town of Clay, just like the ones here, same $200,000 house, are paying $1,000 less in school tax. And if they're in Salina and they go to the Liverpool School District, they're paying $1,500 more. That's not fair. So the state needs to do something, either have a blanket equalization rate that makes it equitable for everybody, which right now it doesn't, or make everybody be at 100% assessment. But it's really up to them. Other than that, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, 48% of all the towns in New York State were at 100% assessment. So, about half. Right now, there's 20% in the state. Why is that? Because it's not fair. It's just not done right. It hurts the towns and the residents in the towns that are at 100% equalization. So there's very little we can do with it, but I and the board thought it was the best thing to do right now, to just hold it flat, at least see where it's going and wait for it to come down, which I think it's going to.
No, I think so too. And I've had numerous conversations about that, because I think you mentioned it maybe two times ago when we talked, so maybe 2 months ago. And I started talking, and there was some kind of relief in the town, just to wait to see, what would happen with the market. Because like you said, last year was just as crazy. So, anybody that bought a house, or looking at a house, and they're looking at what they're going to pay for it, where it was assessed, what was that going to do to the taxes? And it's that unknown. Recently we've been talking about, yes, you could afford this house today, but can you afford it with the tax increase and with the utility increases? And that's where sometimes people look at the house and they love it, and they're spending their last dime. And sorry to go off on a tangent, but this bothers me. They're spending like their last dime to buy this house, and then the taxes go up, or the utilities, they go up, and now they're stretched. And it's, a lot of times people think, well, once they buy the house, people move on. But no, we usually stay connected with the people we help. And it's heartbreaking when you're talking to them. Somebody in Baldwinsville, her, because of taxes, her mortgage went up $300 a month. She told me that's a lot for the person. It's a lot for anybody, but it was $300
a month for 30 years. That's a lot. Listen. I was one of those people when my wife and we got married. I was 20, she was 18, and my daughter came along my wife got pregnant 3 months later. So, within 11 months, my daughter comes along. So I know what it's like. When we bought our first house, we closed on the house, or in order to close on the house, I had to borrow $600 from my buddy. I was $600 short till the following week when I got paid. And so he let me borrow the $600. I paid him back the next week, and we moved in. We had bedroom furniture, we had a kitchen table, and we had a couple of chairs in the living room. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I understand that. And this year, one of the things that I forgot to talk about, like with our budget, our utility prices are going out of sight. And the average household in in the town in Onondaga counties going to be paying about 39% more in their heating bill. So if you paid $1,000 last year, you're going to be paying $1,390 this year for the same amount of heat. So what's that mean? Either people are going to have to be colder, but you are going to pay more. So you add all of these things in, heat and gas and food, and then you compound it with extreme tax increases. That's not good. I think I was talking to Brian May, our county legislator, and I think the county's going to decrease their taxes as well. So you got the town taxes going down, you got the county taxes going down. Hopefully, in this next year, the school districts and the fire departments are going to take a look at that as well, and hold the line on some things.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you only have so much control. The school only does, and the county does. It's a combination of everything. But I know the village went down last year as well. The tax rate, maybe the taxes went up a little bit, but like you were explaining earlier, if the tax rate goes down, it's still less money than you would have paid if the tax rate goes up. So, but all right. Well, was there anything else that you had on the agenda for today, Bob?
No, that's all I have for today.
Well, I don't know why. Maybe it's because of my background, but I absolutely love when we get into talking about assessments and taxes. Not if you tell me you're going to increase the taxes. I guess next year, if that happens, I might end the broadcast early or something. But
well, yeah, like I said, the tax rate's going down, but I mean, 10.67%. I don't think that's, I know that they went up 14%, and that's where you see that the difference of the $2. And the difference, if you own a house, listen, if you own a house, you're still in the same house. Doesn't matter, the assessment, the value's more, but you're still, it doesn't do anything for you until you sell. But when you look at $2, I think that most people can absorb that. And, even if you're on a fixed income, $2, they can handle that. Hundreds of dollars, no. And that's where, I'm really trying to keep track of that. I try to look at forecasting, because I think next year, from everything I heard, next year could be another bad year as well. When I say bad, just difficult, financially. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I am sure you're right, but I hope that you are wrong. But
I hope I'm wrong too. I mean, but I have to prepare for the worst case scenario, so that we're in a position that, we don't, hammer the residents with extreme increases, and, but it can't go on for perpetuity either. If our federal government has to do something with what they're doing, they got to get it together. Yeah, I think they're just spending too much money. They gotta calm it down, because the Fed's going to increase. I heard today another 0.75% in the interest rates. That's not good.
No, that's not good.
That'll slow down housing.
yes, it will. It definitely has already done that, and that will make it happen even more so. There's quite a few people that were excited to be first-time home buyers who are now out of the market again. And again, I think that's sad. So, well,
hopefully within the next couple of years with Micron coming in, I think that's going to throw, just if you look at what they were talking about with salaries just from that company, when they get up and running, right now their average salary is $109,000 a year. They're going to be paying, just from the people hired by Micron, $1 billion in salary. That's coming into the economy here, and that's going to open things up. We're going to have, more amenities, more restaurants. The tax base is much better. When you have that amount of people making that amount of money, it's going to spread that tax base out. So, the more people that are paying the school tax, hopefully the less we pay in taxes.
Yeah. Well, let's end on that positive note, Bob, because so far we were going down a dark road. All right. Thank you for your time as always. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
Bye.